All right. Hi, everyone. I think I'm live. So we've had a bit of a glitch and Facebook Live is not working and cooperating with any laptop cameras, nor is it allowing screen sharing. So we completely just switched gears in the last few minutes. So talk about a real interoception surge in my body. I have no idea. I can't see anyone out there. I have no idea if I'm live, but hopefully you can all see me and hear me. I'm really sorry about this, but hopefully we can just make this work. So I'm just going to proceed with the hope that you can all see and hear me. Okay, so what I have going on here, I just want to say, first of all, okay, so now I'm here. So hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Mahler. I'm an occupational therapist in the United States. I have been so excited to cover the topic of alexithymia and interoception during this entire month of September. But most specifically, I've been excited to join you all live. And I know we had so much interest in watching this as a recording as well. Just really excited about covering a little bit about this topic. We're going to be going live for about a half an hour. So I wanted to just present just a little bit of content for like the first 15, 20 minutes. And then I wanted to open it up to those of you that are here live and take some questions that you might hear. So hopefully, I know I have my teammate Allison here. So thank goodness for her. And hopefully, Allison, if you can just start taking some of the questions from Facebook as they are coming in and posting them over in Zoom for me, that would be really helpful. That way I can be connected to all of you in some way. I just want to start out by just offering a gentle content or trigger warning because we're talking about our feels and our inner experiences. Just by nature of this topic, you might be finding yourself reflecting on your own inner experience, and that can feel very overwhelming and sometimes even unsafe to many people. We're going to touch a little bit on trauma and gaslighting and compliance-based approaches, and so I just want to offer that content preview for you. And I'm just going to assume, especially now that I can't connect or see any of you, that you are participating in this in a way that meets your comfort level. And we will be posting this recording. If you're someone that's here live, we'll be posting this recording. So you can leave at any time. And if you want to revisit the content, it will be there posted in our Interoception Facebook group, as well as to our YouTube channel. I also want to share, and I think this is important for us to all keep in mind, and if you're here as a professional, that we're really clear on this and telling our clients about this. If we're a parent or a self-advocate, that we're really like keeping this message in mind, and that's that your inner experience is always correct and valid. There's no wrong way to feel. We all have very different inner experiences. I've been immersed in interoception for almost a decade now, and it still is so surprising to me just how diverse our inner experiences are. There's no wrong way to express how you feel, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's not, emotion words are not meaningful to every single person, so we really need to keep that in mind. It's also okay to not want to feel. That is a very highly protective strategy that many people use to dissociate or disconnect from their body. That is very common in people that are chronically dysregulated. Their body does not feel like a very safe place. So that not feeling or that dissociating from your body is highly protective. Or in cases of trauma too, we know that that is very a common experience. And so we are not attempting to take away that protective strategy. We want to add to that strategy to give people the ability or the framework to connect with themselves and how they feel if they feel safe enough to do so. And so I think that's always important to keep in mind. I also would be remiss if I did not say a big thanks to a lot of different people, including two of my really good friends, Kim Clary and Rachel Thompson, who are both occupational therapists. They are both also autistic, and we have very deep and rich conversations about the diversity of the human experience. And we always joke like that probably if people were eavesdropping on our conversations, they might be very bored, but we really get into talking about just how very different all of our experiences can be. And so a lot of what I'm going to share is rooted in some of those conversations with them. And of course, my clients are always teaching me. I'm always updating myself with things and lessons that they're teaching. And a big shout out to all of you too, our interoception community. I learn so much from you each and every day. And so just a big thanks to all of you. So really quick into this content, if alexithymia is a new term for you, what that term largely refers to is the experience of having difficulty identifying your emotions. And sometimes certain definitions take that one step forward. And also it's difficulty describing your emotions or putting words to your emotional experience. And so what we know about alexithymia is that 1 in 10 people experience alexithymia, but we know the rates are a lot higher than that in certain populations, and including people that have mental health diagnoses, people that are neurodivergent, and also people that have experienced trauma. I think that this 1 in 10 in the general population is a really interesting number. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I was just reading a study that Brene Brown did, and I love Brene Brown's work, and she was talking about how they did a survey of thousands of people, and the average person can only identify 3 emotions within themselves. And so that's a really small number of emotions that a very large group of people could identify. And so it really, I think, to me, speaks to how disconnected many times we are as a society to our bodies and to our emotional experiences. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what is this interoception thing? This is suggesting, this live stream is suggesting that alexithymia and interoception are going hand in hand. So what is interoception? It is the sense that gives us information about how our body feels, what our body feels mean. So maybe you notice, say, I don't know, like this is what's happening in my body right now, a growling stomach. And what does that body sensation or signal mean for me? Like I've learned over time that that feeling in my stomach means that I'm hungry. And then I've learned even more through a lot of practice, what does my body need in this moment for regulation or survival? And I know that I need to eat as soon as I get off this live stream based on the way my body feels. And I'm able to do all of those different things because of my interoceptive sense. And interoception is something that I have worked really hard in my own life to be more connected, to be able to notice and understand the messages that my body is sending me. It's been 10 years in the process. It's not an easy or perfect journey. And we know that for a lot of people, they're very disconnected in a lot of different ways. They can have a breakdown in any of these 3 or all 3 of these areas, being able to notice how their body feels, those body signals. They might be noticing body signals, but they're really unsure how to interpret them or what they mean for them. Or they might be noticing body signals, but they're just not sure what to do about them. How do you regulate or meet your body's needs? So there can be a breakdown in all 3 of these areas of interoception. When I first wrote my first book on interoception, I started writing that almost 8 years ago, which is really amazing to think about, because my sense of time is warped since COVID. But anyhow, one of the biggest pieces of criticism that my book got was I talked a lot about how interoception and our body signals give emotions meaning. It's how we use our body signals as clues to what emotional experience we're having. And that's well supported in the literature. So then I made a connection there to alexithymia and talking about how alexithymia is just a breakdown in that interoceptive process, and got a lot of criticism about that. But fast forward 8 years later, and and we are learning so much from neuroscience, and there is strong evidence now coming out of the neuroscience research field that alexithymia is a general difference in the interoceptive process, or a breakdown in in those 3 points that I just shared on the previous slide. So I shared 2 of these studies here. The first is alexithymia, general deficit of interoception. And then the second was published, alexithymia is associated with a multi-domain, multi-dimensional failure of interoception. So that's really, that connection is very well validated in neuroscience. However, largely as a whole, we're not really talking about that connection enough yet. And I'll talk about why we need to be talking about that connection. So to me, interoception provides an actually useful framework for supporting the alexithymia experience. For so long, we understood, especially I'm speaking from my experience as a professional and a parent, I understand my child or my client's experience. Many times when I was a baby OT, behaviorism was very rampant, and it still is too common right now, but it's really rooted in observable behavior. And trying to determine why a person is doing what they're doing, or they're looking at what they're doing rather, through an observable behavior lens. And that really tells us very little about the whys. Why is a person doing? Why are they running out of the classroom? Why are they refusing to take a bath or do math homework? Like, that's all like just, if we stay on the surface, we miss all of that underlying surface, beneath the surface information. And so alexithymia does give us a little bit more information, and it gets at the why. So maybe a person is having frequent meltdowns during math because they're having a really difficult time identifying and understanding how they feel, which is that alexithymia definition, right? But that still doesn't get to the root of it. The root of it is, why is that person having a difficult time identifying and describing the way that they feel? We have to get even deeper. And that interoception science really provides us with a great framework to move forward and support alexithymia. I was taking a course a few weeks ago on someone talking about how to support alexithymia. And one of the strategies was to invite your client to identify how they feel more frequently throughout the day. And like, that just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, that's the core of why they're having a really hard time. So you're just going to invite them to do that more frequently. Like, I just likened that to like, skiing, for example, snow skiing. Snow skiing is something I always wanted to be able to do. And I tried to do it a couple times, and I was really not good. And in fact, it was borderline dangerous. And so, that would be like, I was likening that to, I don't have the underlying skills to be able to ski. I'm not a very highly coordinated person when it comes to certain sports activities. And so if you invited me and kept taking me skiing after skiing after skiing, and time again, without ever getting at the root of why skiing is so hard for me, that would become a really frustrating process. And that's kind of like what they were asking their clients to do. I'm just going to keep asking you to identify how you feel, and think that that's magically going to potentially improve your experience. Like, we need to figure out why. Why are they struggling to identify the way that they feel? And interoception science gives us that answer. So an interoception approach to alexithymia, or that difficulty understanding how you feel, is really helpful. We're doing a lot of intervention-based research, looking at really successful outcomes as a result of an interoception-based approach. So step 1 is all about noticing your body signals. So we're starting at the body signal level. This is very different than many other approaches out there. We're helping our clients to start to connect with their body, notice those sensations. So how do my hands feel during fun activities? Or how do my muscles feel? Or how does my heart feel? Or how does my stomach feel? And then as they become more connected and they're noticing their body signals, then we use those body signals as clues to their emotions. So how do we help them connect those body signals to what they need uniquely for them? And we have to remember, this is so different for each one of us. Like, what your body feels like when you're hungry is different than what my body feels like when I'm hungry. body. What your body feels like when you're anxious is different than what my body feels like when I'm anxious. So that connection piece has to be highly individual. And then finally, we have that regulate piece, which ties in the emotion regulation, which I know we're not really here to talk about, but you have to be really clear on how you feel in order to be able to regulate with an action that promotes that regulation and comfort. So we do hear from quite a few people that emotion words have very little meaning. What we know from interoception science, again, is that our body signals are clues to our emotions. Our body signals give emotion words meaning. And so if you are struggling to connect with those interoceptive sensations, those emotion words become very abstract. Many people just don't understand them. And I am so guilty of this. I was throwing around emotion words with my clients, really assuming, not knowing any better, not even knowing to think differently, that maybe those emotion words had very little meaning to them. And so we really want to move this work forward in a way that is meaningful to each person. And I do have some clients who are like, don't use emotion words with me at all. But I also have a larger group of clients that are able to tell me that they do want to use their body signals to give emotion words meaning so that they can connect and so they can express how they feel in a way that many people understand, and that they can connect with a wider group of people. So if they understand when, like, say their husband says they're hurt, and they understand what hurt means in their body, like feelings hurt in their body, they understand how their partner is feeling in that moment, and they can really connect with them on a deeper level. So this interoception science is providing a very different way of learning emotions. We often teach emotions like, here's a picture, this is the face, a smile means happy, or we tie it to like events, like a funeral means you're sad. And that becomes a very rigid understanding of emotions for many people. And it's so confusing because emotions are really so much more complex than that. You know, a smile can mean many different things. Or if you think about it in another way, a person that's feeling happy doesn't always look one way with one facial expression. So it can really create a lot of difficulty understanding emotions. So we really need to give emotion meaning from the inside out. So starting at that body signal level, helping our clients notice their body signals, and then using those as clues to their emotional experience. And even if we are using more of an inside out approach to understanding emotions, oftentimes this is done from one perspective. Again, I just want to say, like, I am guilty of a lot of this. I just need to continually update my knowledge here. And so there's programs out there, for example, that might teach like sad is a low arousal feeling. Guess what? That's not true for everybody. Some people, when they get sad, they might feel an effusion of emotion in their body. So again, it comes back to what your body feels like when you're sad is different than what my body feels like when I'm sad. So it's not fair to teach that sad is always a low arousal feeling. Or we teach in like health class, stress means when your heart races and your palms are sweaty. Guess what? That's not the truth for every single person when they are experiencing stress. Or I was just like looking on Amazon at some emotion posters, and there's just like, it's just like very rigid, like meeting new people can make us feel shy. Well, does meeting new people make everyone feel shy? Probably not. So it's really just, we have these very rigid rules that we use to teach these emotions. And so we really need to give emotions individualized meaning from the inside out. So if you're noticing your heart is racing and your palms are sweating, what do those body signals mean for you? And then finally, many times people have their emotions labeled by others in an attempt to teach emotions. Like, so people, and I've said these things to my children, my clients in the past, like, oh, you look upset right now. Or I was just in an IEP meeting, and they were saying every time he runs out of the classroom, he's laughing loudly. He thinks it's funny to run out of the classroom and enjoys us chasing him. However, what we know is there is often a mismatch between what a person's inner experience is and what their outward expression is. So we really need this interoception approach is so helpful for me as a parent and as a professional to discover my clients, my own child's emotions from the inside out. And we make discoveries and we gain insights into their inner experience, which are very surprising and very different oftentimes than what we might think. So I just wanted to finally end the content part of this with just a few slides on what derails interoception or can lead to alexithymia many times. And then I'll turn it over for questions. So we talked this month about emotion labeling and gaslighting. So these are statements that can really make people doubt their inner reality. Some of these statements are said from a place of good intention, but we really need to think very critically about their very significant impact on a person's inner experience. Just so labeling emotions like you look frustrated, that person might not actually be feeling frustrated on the outside, or saying things like you can't possibly be hungry, you just ate. That's like really invalidating their inner experience, or saying things like your reaction does not match the size of the problem. Again, invalidating their inner experience and saying things that make them begin to doubt that experience. And we had some really rich discussion on our social media platforms about gaslighting this month. And one of our followers on Instagram, they shared, it happens so often to autistic people, of referring to gaslighting. People always tell me I feel X when I'm not feeling that at all. It's a very deep subject, and that can be dangerous and overwhelming at times. Thank you for talking about it. So that constant getting and invalidating their inner experience can really sometimes, not in every case, but many times can lead to this alexithymia, because a person starts to doubt how they're feeling and if they're accurate on that or not. And furthermore, compliance-based approaches repeatedly condition a person to ignore what their body is telling them they need in order to meet a demand and sometimes earn that reinforcer. So many of my clients, if you really observe them from a young age, they are acting in a way that is meeting their interoceptive needs. Their quote unquote behaviors are often solutions for them. And so many times they're acting in a way to meet those interoceptive needs. So they might be seeking out things that promote that interoceptive comfort, like flapping or rocking or lining up toys, and that's labeled disruptive or attention seeking. And so these compliance-based approaches come in and force people to stop using those things in order to meet the demands, or even just little things like sit still when a child's body is telling their body that I need to move in order to engage and connect with you. So we're overriding that body listening. Also, many times my clients are acting in very obvious ways that they're trying to avoid aversive experiences, things that are promoting very intense pain and internal discomfort, but that's labeled as problematic, challenging. They're doing this to escape or avoid. And that compliance approach comes in and figures out how to force a person to participate in an environment or task that really is causing extreme internal pain and discomfort. So we really need to think carefully about compliance and how it's really derailing interoception and leading potentially to that alexithymia experience. So I'll turn it over to questions now, but we're just really suggesting this interoception approach to support alexithymia. And that's really all about using that curiosity, no labeling, just get curious. Like, I wonder how your body is feeling right now, or I see your hands are doing this. What does that mean? Using a regulation focused approach instead of compliance, leading with the fact that we all have different experiences. So be really careful if you're using any emotion or self-regulation programs to really evaluate them and think about, like, is this really embracing the fact that we all have very different experiences? And then finally, we have the interoception curriculum, which is a very systematic and evidence-based way that we're using to build these body, emotion, action connections. So I just wanted to thank you, and thank you for bearing with me with our technical issues. I do see some questions coming. Allison's taking your questions from the chat in Facebook and putting them over here for me. So I'll just take a little bit of time to answer some of these questions in the last few minutes. So question number one is, what if someone experiences alexithymia and does not seem invested or interested in things being different? Do we just meet them where they are? Yes, I think you answered your own question. Absolutely. And I think it really leads back to some of the final slides that I was sharing. Like, we need to validate their experience. And if that experience is being fine or being fine where they're at right now, that should be okay. Really thinking carefully about offering this interoception or support for alexithymia, it can be highly triggering to many people because of the things that they have experienced that potentially could have derailed that interoceptive experience to begin with. Having your experience continually mislabeled, misunderstood, like, is that really a motivating place then to really want to shift your attention? So really working hard to build that mutual relationship, and really showing that you are there to like understand their experience and to validate their experience. And if they want to learn a little bit more about that, that you're there to coach them through that. You're not there to teach them the right way to feel. Okay, another question. How do we know if our OT is knowledgeable, can help with that? I bring up interoception, and I don't know if the OTs I see know what support I'm asking. How can we find OT for late diagnosed neurodivergent folks who never learned regulation skills? This is a couple really good questions all wrapped into one. So yeah, just start talking to your OT or even mental health provider or SLP about interoception, asking them, if they know about it. You can give them, we have lots of free resources on my website at kelly-mahler.com to get them really thinking about interoception. And I mean, it really depends on the setting that you're asking about, but I do work with parents, and some parents, they just feel like they don't have the right to go on to a new therapist, but you don't always have that option. Like, so if you're in a certain setting, like a school, sometimes you're stuck with that, but really just advocating and educating and giving people, the benefit of the doubt at first, because this is a new topic to many people, and hopefully your OT will hop on board and keep pace with this new information. As far as finding OTs for late diagnosed neurodivergent folks, that's a great question. Post to our Facebook page if you want. We do accept those posts looking for support systems. I know that it's not always an easy support to find out there. How do we get schools and many therapists to understand how important this is to supporting individuals, especially schools? Again, like, this is such a new area. So just education. So bringing up the word interoception first can be really new to many people. Share the website like I shared, our Facebook group. Interoception is the hottest topic studied in neuroscience, so they really can't ignore this much longer. So they might as well get on board. We do have a really awesome on-demand course, and it was all about interoception in the schools. So if you hook them in with a little interest and they want to learn a little bit more, we also have some paid resources specifically for schools on my website. Your body scanning activity has been amazing. We started this 2 years ago with my daughter, and it's helped so much. Just being aware of different body parts as a starting point has been so interesting. And we are now starting to link those body responses and signals to some emotions, and it's beginning to help with confusing anxiety, sickness, tired, hungry feelings, to all of which add up to tummy feelings. Any way to help with this further? The tummy feeling is specifically seems to be a real block with us. Yeah, that tummy feeling is so incredibly hard because, first of all, it's abstract. Like, you can't really look inside yourself and see what's going on. And there's so many different organs and things happening in your tummy. It could be your stomach, it could be your bladder, it could be your uterus. If I don't know how old your daughter is, if she's of menstruation age. So really helping her to find patterns could be really helpful. So when she has that feeling in her tummy, maybe developing some kind of chart that's most meaningful to her, but help her think about, okay, like, what was happening before you noticed the feeling? What were your urges to do when you had that feeling, if anything, and really just trying to find some patterns. So maybe that the feeling you're noticing is because it's been a long time since breakfast, and maybe that feeling could mean hunger for you, or maybe you're about to get your period and that feeling could be menstrual cramps for you. So helping her to find patterns through charts can be really helpful for that, since you're very far into the process right now. So the chart is more of an advanced strategy for any of you that might be really new to this work. So what do we do instead of emotion labeling? I totally get it, but it's so hard to connect emotions to behaviors without providing an example. This is a great question, and things that we are just really starting to explore. And when I have a client that can share insights, I of course ask them how we can bridge that for them. One of the things that we're trying is, can we, in certain situations, this makes sense, and other times it's not quite as clear, but can we bridge the body signal to the action? So when your tummy, that's coming to mind from the last question, when your tummy feels this way, what can you do? What action can you take to help regulate that feeling in your body? Or when your hands are squeezing like this, what can we do to help your body feel more comfortable if that's an uncomfortable sensation? And another thing that we do to bridge it is, okay, I'm noticing these body signals, and we determine, like, is this a comfortable body signal or an uncomfortable body signal? So instead of putting emotion words to that meaning, we put comfortable or uncomfortable to that body signal meaning, and then that can drive the action piece, the regulation piece. What if you ask the child what XYZ means and they answer, I don't know? How do you support their journey of self-discovery without imposing your thoughts about what they might be feeling? This is a great question. I'm glad you're being so thoughtful about this. Being okay with I don't know. I think that that's so important. And one of the things I took out of my slides, but we say this in most of our trainings, is to keep saying to people, it's okay to not know how you feel. I mean, how many of you have had that experience where you are experiencing something, but you just can't quite figure out how you feel? Like, that can be such a common experience. And so just saying that out loud, like, this is hard work. It's okay to not know how you feel. Really reading your client or your child, like, do they need more repetition in fun ways? Like, we do a lot of focus area experiments, which are designed to evoke stronger interoceptive sensations in the body, to give practice noticing how those body parts feel. Maybe they just need to, like, do some fun work there. And again, if they don't know how their body feels, that's okay. Or maybe they just need a break from it, and your validation of their inner experience is just enough in that moment. Like, it's okay. Like, this is really hard stuff. And so just really thinking a lot about that. We also have a ton of language supports embedded in the interoception curriculum, because a lot of times, and I didn't have enough time. Like, I could go on about this topic, in case you can't tell, for hours and hours. But for many people, they might be starting to notice sensations, but they really don't develop that language to be able to put a word to that sensation, because it's not an experience they had before. So we really are bridging that piece with a lot of language supports, and that language supports are not necessarily streamlined with, like, always typical interoceptive sensations. Like, we might have some menus of, like, different ways your hands can feel, like your hands can feel cold or warm or tight or loose or wet or dry. But we also are starting to really think outside the box and offering different menus. Like, they might be experiencing sensations in shapes or colors, or I was just talking to another OT whose client was labeling everything with different vegetables. And so we really had to work hard at, like, understanding his experience and what was the pattern he was sharing with us there. And it's so lots of that language and communication supports to cut down on that spoken language piece as well. How can this methodology be used to help with occupational therapy? Yeah, great question. We're doing a lot of research studies right now, being led by occupational therapy students and faculty, myself included. And so actually, interoception was recently added to the occupational therapy practice framework in the United States. And so it is a part of our practice framework. So while it's very new to many people, it is an area that we as OTs need to be understanding and increasing our knowledge and experience, myself included in that group. We've learned a lot about interoception, but it is a field in its infancy, and we have a long way to really go. I know that I'm going a little bit over, hopefully this is helpful to take a couple more questions. I'm just scrolling through here. So someone's asking if trauma happened pre-verbal and the brain development was obviously impacted, and interoception and alexithymia are components that impact the individual. Can neuroplasticity concept repair or build that part of the brain? And is it a specific therapy? Yeah, this is a great question. And we know that early life trauma can impact the insula, which is the interoception center of the brain. And I mean, I don't have access to brain imaging machines, but I do know that there's lots of really great researchers out there studying the effectiveness of interoception supports on brain areas. As an OT, I'm more focused on what are the functional gains my clients are making as a result of the interoception curriculum. But what they're finding is interoception supports are enhancing many areas of the brain, including the insula, increasing activity level in the insula, increasing the gray matter of the insula. So there's tons and tons of hope and really well validated research saying that interoception can be enhanced in many of our lives. It's just important to keep in mind that some people require a slightly slower process, and sometimes these connections can be made quite fast for other people. And we really haven't found a rhyme or reason to that length of time quite yet. How do we find a local OT that knows interoception if your OT is unwilling to learn and tries to direct it to the behavior therapist? This is a whole new topic and course. Personally, I don't think anything can be usefully answered by just saying it's behavior. Like, what does that even mean? I would just ask that to be, that's just really a blanket answer to me. It tells me nothing useful. Like, occupational therapists are highly trained to get below, like that iceberg analogy I gave you, to get really deep and understand the underlying reasons that are contributing to outside or observable behavior. And so you can call around if you live somewhere that you do have multiple OT options. Call around and ask questions before you take your child there. Ask what their philosophy is, and try to find a good match. I know that's easier said than done, but that's my really quick answer to a really good but big question. Okay, so I'll just take one more question here. So I see someone, okay, so this person's asking, I have an autistic ADHD with alexithymia and post-traumatic stress disorder from school. Okay, got it. So the PTSD is from school. You've been homeschooling for 4 years, always been massively anxious, worse than ever since COVID, doesn't want to leave home and can't be in places there are other kids. He wakes dysregulated and dysregulates through the day. He not usually able to find what he needs to regulate. He can't tell the difference between anxiety, hunger, tiredness, and boredom. So a lot of things are jumping out here at me. And the first thing is the point that your child is not able to find what he needs to regulate. That's really common in people that have an unclear interoceptive experience. And I have a colleague, Chloe Rothschild, who talks about how she's autistic. And when she was younger, people would tell her things like, go calm down or go to the break space and get calm. And she'd just go there and stand there. And she had like no idea what to do to help regulate her body. She was so disconnected. She didn't know the things that helped to change the way her body felt. So one of the things that's coming to mind without knowing this child is just to start doing some everyday work where that feels not extremely invasive, and just in fun ways, if you can, like think about his I don't know his interests or what he enjoys doing, but thinking about times that he's doing something that could be evoking a stronger feeling in his body, and just being curious about it. Like, oh, like, when you're washing your hands, like, oh, I wonder how your hands feel while you're washing them. Or if I don't know, this is just completely making this up, if he likes playing with slime, like, how do your hands feel when you're playing with slime? He might not be able to answer, and that's okay. We're just really starting at inviting him to start noticing the way his body feels outside of emotions when he's feeling regulated. If he doesn't even have any times when he's feeling regulated, then I would rewind even further and go to a place of co-regulation. And it sounds like you are really doing a great job of reading what your child needs. But I'm sure it's not always easy when you want to obviously see your child to feel regulated. We have a whole blog post on co-regulation and a course that I did with Greg Santucci that I think could be really helpful, all about the power of co-regulation and what that means and how we can get more co-regulation in these learners' lives that are really highly dysregulated. We don't want to start doing interoception work if they're chronically dysregulated, because if you think about like the time when you had your highest degree of stress response and people would invite you to notice how your body felt like during that moment, it's probably not a very motivating place. Like, you probably don't want to pay attention to how your body's feeling. So we want to get that co-regulation place in first, then offer the interoception work in ways that feels very safe to their neurology, playful, outside of emotions, and really work with that connection in slow ways, and gradually build to that internal connection, and being able to use body signals and changing body signals. You can really focus on changing body signals. So like, oh, I noticed, he's saying like maybe his hands feel wet. You could say, oh, what can you do to change the way your hands feel? And maybe he could, try, or I don't know if this is a child, a daughter or son, but do some playful things to change the way that his hands are feeling. You're really setting up that foundation of changing the way your body feels eventually when it feels anxious or hungry and so forth. So I hope that helps. And I really just want to say thank you to everyone. And until next time, take care.